Okay, Mayor, we're ready to begin whenever you are.
All right. Good morning. We are going to call this meeting to order. Before we call this meeting to order, we will hear interpretation on how the public may access Spanish interpretation.
Welcome. Thank you. The following message will repeat in Spanish. We are offering live interpretation in Spanish via our Zoom platform. To access our Spanish channel, press the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen, where you will see a globe icon. Choose Spanish. If you're joining via Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More, or the three dots at the bottom of your screen. Select Language Interpretation and choose Spanish. Bienvenidos, estamos ofreciendo interpretación en vivo y en directo durante nuestra sesión en la plataforma Zoom. Para tener acceso a interpretación, oprima el icono del globo terráqueo al pie de su pantalla y seleccione Spanish o español según su formato. Si está uniéndose vía Zoom en su teléfono inteligente, seleccione elija Interpretación de idiomas y pulse Spanish o español según su formato. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Back.
All right. Thank you. We'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, and we will move on to our land acknowledgement. The City of South Lake Tahoe acknowledges the land we occupy today are the lands and home of the Washichu, the people from here known today as the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California, a sovereign nation. Since the beginning of time and for thousands of years before the arrival of any other people, the Washoe lived here and cared for this place, with values and intention that we can all learn from. On behalf of the City Council, I would like to acknowledge, thank, and honor the indigenous Washoe tribal communities that are the past, present, and future stewards of the Lake Tahoe Basin. And with that, we'll move on to the closed session report, which
I believe we have roll call first.
Okay. We'll move on to roll call.
I apologize. All right, Councilmember Cregan?
Here.
Councilmember Wallace?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedrich?
Here.
Mayor Bass? And Councilmember Robbins is absent today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did not have a closed session, and there is no report today.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to item 12 be returned to staff and brought back on the meeting of February 27th, so we can make sure we include all the resolutions and have a full discussion with all council members present who can participate in that item.
Okay. Ms. Wallace.
So I understand that we're putting this off, and I'm okay with it today. But in the future, if any council member is not able to attend for whatever reason, given all the opportunities and availabilities for us to attend, I think that we should always move forward with the business of the city. And I will say that because I was missing in December, and I know something was put off for me to participate. To be clear, I did not ask for that. And I would never, because if I'm not here, I don't get to vote. So today is okay. I'll go forward with that. But in the future, I'm going to suggest that we just move on with the business of the city.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Wallace. All right. All right. Great. We will now move on to any to public comment. Anybody in the room that would like to give public comment? Kurtzweiler.
Good morning, everyone. In 1996, California voters approved a statewide initiative, Proposition 218, that added Article 13C and Article 13D to the state constitution and governs taxes imposed by local governments. Article 13C, Section 2, provided the following rules for approval of taxes imposed by local governments. General taxes must be approved by a simple majority of voters. General taxes must be put before voters at a regular general election, and special taxes must be approved by 2/3 supermajority of the voters. Special tax 2/3 vote. Scott got 2,052 votes in the last election. That is 14.42% of the vote. There were 5,943 votes out of 13,046 registered voters in the city of South Lake Tahoe, or 45.55%. If everyone voted who was registered to vote, this would require 8,798 votes. If the same amount voted this time as later, this would require 3,962 votes. Less than half of the voters in this city voted. General tax, 50% plus one. If the same amount of people vote as has been historically known to be around 50%, this would require 2,979 votes to pass, which is 927 votes more than Scott received in the last election. Scott, this town was built by contractors and business owners. This town is now maintained by contractors. 80% of the work performed by contractors in this community are done to second homeowners and VHRs. Contractors and business owners are most of the members of the service clubs. We are also the ones that donate our time and services to help this community. How many second homeowners are going to improve their home if you charge them an extra $6,000 a year on top of the 200% increase for fire insurance? If you continue down this path of the city needs to have affordable workforce housing, you will destroy this town and force all of us to leave. If you want workforce housing, you should let the large businesses take the lead and build it. The city and the residents should not be wholly responsible for housing, and there is no need for a recall. We can defeat this at the election. And the remainder of my time, as I sit down, I'd just like a moment of silence for the tragedy that was inflicted on our community yesterday. Thank you.
Moving on. Any more public comment in the room today? Mr. Mosier.
Good morning, Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe.
Please not use the microphone.
Yes, sir. Aye, aye. Yeah, you do the land acknowledgement, and a while back, probably a year or so ago, Mr. Friedrich was our representative on TRPA, and I requested that he bring forward to lobby Congress, have TRPA lobby Congress to have the Washoe and indigenous tribes be given a seat at the governing board table. They've been here for a few thousand years. We just arrived shortly to screw things up in a very short length of time, and they don't have a seat at the table. Also, that the presidential appointee, since we get quite a bit of money, millions of dollars, we're getting tens of millions of dollars a year from the Nevada land sales, thanks to the federal government and BLM land sales in southern Nevada, that they don't have a vote. And so here our main source of income, and people that have been here the longest don't even get a say here or have a vote or a voice. So I don't never heard if Mr. Friedrich did make that request or not, but I would like to put it forth again. And Mr. Bass, since you're sitting there, request you as our representative to bring that forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we will move to our Zoom platform.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment. I do see we have 2 hands raised. First, we have Ms. Ballard. You're on with council. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I would like to once again ask the city council to have a day where the city council members take on some of the disabilities that some of us here live with, including using wheelchairs, blindness, and other neurodiverse abilities, and try to get your way around town, go to your favorite restaurants, and get a glimpse of how many of us in the disabled community here have to deal with things like transportation, going into restaurants, being able to use the bathrooms, going to the beach to be able to put our feet in the water, and other things like that that are simply just living for a lot of people. Those of us with disabilities have a much harder time, and I'd like you all to experience that. At our Access Tahoe meeting yesterday, we talked about maybe getting a grab bag where you each choose a different disability to take on for the day or afternoon to get some a little bit of real life experience of what we deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Next up, we have Levi. You have 4 minutes with council. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. Sorry. I have a speech here I wanted to read. When the city government cuts off unpopular speech, they are setting up the city to be sued and held financially liable for First Amendment violations. A man in Los Angeles was awarded $215,000 for having his right to address the council cut off while wearing a KKK robe. Hopefully these lawsuits will force city governments to honor the rights of the people, regardless if you like the opinions of the public or not. You must let them share their statements. The Supreme Court has ruled that there is no such hate speech exemptions to the First Amendment. A public forum cannot cut off speech that is offensive, hateful, racist, insulting, etc., as long as the comments are legal and are non-threatening. Restricting free speech is dangerous. Without the option, how else do you expect people to address their grievances? Doing so is a serious offense and disservice to the oath you took to benefit the city. I encourage everyone who has had their ability to peacefully exercise their free speech cut off to file a lawsuit against the city. I've contacted legal counsel and will not stand for censoring legal speech. Just because a bunch of anti-American Jews want to silence the truth doesn't mean we will stay quiet. The people are waking up and know how these parasites operate. It's not a secret now that the Jews hate us, that they are the biggest racists while shouting, "Oy vey, that's anti-Semitism." They use the justice system to sick law enforcement on political opposition. They lie about the Holocaust to gaslight criticism of their sick practices. In their book, The Talmud, they advocate for the murder of a boy, and we're tired of it. Jews have been expelled from over 109 countries now, and it's obvious why. There exists no good Jew. They either openly follow their god Satan or are still in the closet about it. Every aspect of Judaism is satanic. Every aspect of racism is Jewish. Every part of the LGBT cult has Jewish roots. Why do so many of our politicians have dual citizenship with Israel? Why does a 2% minority hold the majority of political seats? Whenever Jews are allowed to hold power, they do nothing but destroy. You have to serve somebody, and you're either on the side of God or you follow the Jews to hell with their worship of money, hate, and pedophilia. Go to gtvflyers.com to learn more about the Jews. They're baby penis sucking vampires. My message to the ADL and Jonathan Greenblatt listening is, we are everywhere. You will never stop us, no matter what you do to your enemies. We will rise up and eventually expel your perversion from the world. You will never get away with your sick crimes against humanity. Us Goy know about you. The Holocaust never happened, but it should have. Fuck the Jews, hail Hitler, and white fucking power.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Spiel. You have 4 minutes with council. Go ahead.
Wow. I guess I'll just take a moment to reel and discuss after that previous comment. I'm so sorry for everybody who had to hear that. For my comment, hi, my name is Nick Spiel, and I was wondering if the police chief could please share out an update on the availability of Narcan and fentanyl test strips for the community, namely where these can be found. I know that the city receives annual settlement money to mitigate the effects of the opioid crisis, and I think this money will be well spent supporting the community with defensive tools like Narcan and fentanyl test strips that can save lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Melissa Soderston.
Good morning, City Council. Sorry you got exposed to the guy that keeps traveling through all the meetings. Tahoe is a loving place, and we definitely don't represent that kind of speech here. But anyway, I am definitely here to talk to you about the trees and biomass again today. I know that there are several members that really don't feel like this is an issue that the city needs to take on. They don't feel that they're responsible for the actions of TRPA and the Forest Service, as well as CTC. But we are responsible for that. There is not a person that is going to want to come and visit a Tahoe that does not have beautiful, healthy, dense forests. And as long as we keep allowing these thinning projects to continue, it's going to hurt our tourism economy. There's ample science that has designated that this is not working as an effective practice in preventing wildfire. It's not keeping our community safe, and we need to encourage all of our local agencies to shift all of this funding that is currently being used for commercial logging projects in the basin instead to be used for home hardening and defensible space. And I'm sorry for my confusion. It's really hard to follow those type of comments. I also today wanted to talk about biomass. I know that the city has a facility plan, and they think it's a small one-off. You can look at it in a bubble, and it doesn't look so bad. It's supposed to use debris that's removed from people's private property within the town to fuel the STR. But what we've shown is that biomass is actually 40% more polluting than burning coal would be. So this is not a solution for the future. And while this one power plant may not seem very polluting on its own, when you consider that El Dorado County, CTC, TRPA, Placer County, and every other county around us is considering similar projects, they all add up to horrible pollution, and all of that must be considered when we're considering emissions. I'd also like to take one last minute to talk about AT&T's considering removing our landlines from the area. As we all know, our cell service is not great here when we are full during the summer. The power is out. We don't have internet phones. We need landlines. There are many people who cannot afford cell phones, who do not want to use cell phones for health reasons. It's very important for our city council to contact AT&T and to voice their displeasure at this proposal and keep our landlines in Lake Tahoe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Miss Angie Regan. You have 4 minutes with council. Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Angie Regan. I'm just here again to advocate with all my heart for peace and love in Tahoe, but also for peace and love in this world. I'm here to ask my city council to join other cities throughout the country to help urge President Biden and Congress to call for a resolution for a permanent and sustainable ceasefire and government funding to Israel, release all hostages on all sides, and condemn anti-Semitic, anti-Palestinian, and Islamophobic rhetoric and attacks, and to allow humanitarian aid to be let into Gaza, including essentials of food, water, fuel, shelter, and medical supplies. Cease fire now, please. That's all.
All right, thank you. We have Councilmember Robbins who would like to provide a public comment. Is that allowed at this time? Legal counsel?
I suppose so, but he's not noticed to participate remotely, so it's as a member of the public.
Okay. All right, then we have Mr. Robbins.
Hello, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can, Mr. Robbins.
Thank you. This past week, I buried my father, and in managing and handling the services and his estate, and going through the things that he left behind, I found his original bar mitzvah materials, the scroll from which he read, photos from his bar mitzvah in the 1940s. And this is a faith of my family, and I want to acknowledge that the anti-Semitism that we just heard on the phone is not a remote foreign thing to the city of South Lake Tahoe. We have seen very clearly, very direct anti-Semitic comments by locals on Facebook. I have been described as an NSA George Soros plant, which is an anti-Semitic trope and an anti-Semitic attack. These views and these attitudes are not a problem of somewhere else that has come here. They are a problem that exists here. A few months ago, this council and I voted a unanimous resolution opposing hate, and I'd like to see that resolution be put into some action and for some of these statements to be denounced. These are not what our community should stand for, but there is a part of our community, a very real part, that exists that does believe these horrible things. And I want to finally just conclude that to Ms. Wallace's comments, with all the ways available to attend today, I was available today. I had hoped and planned to attend remotely, but if you would like an explanation of why that was denied, the city attorney can provide that. The circumstances of surrounding my father's death and my attempt to get back in time were apparently not adequate to meet the requirements under the Brown Act emergency exemption. Although I disagree with that assessment, that was the assessment, and that's why I was not able to attend today, not out of a choice. So I wasn't planning on making a comment, but to see the anti-Semitism come to town and to see that is not something that we can dismiss as something that exists only outside our community. And I want to make sure that I weighed my voice in, that those comments have no place here, that the anti-Semitism has no place here, and that hate of all kinds against all peoples have no place here, and that they should not be given refuge online, they should not be given support online, and that members of our government should do the right thing when they see it, not support it. So I urge the council as a whole to make a follow-up statement on the hate statement that we made a few months ago to say that these comments are not acceptable. Thank you very much.
All right, there's no additional comments at this time, Mayor.
Great, thank you. We'll bring it back to council. We absolutely do not condone hate speech, and I think really that's the bottom line, but we do, of course, open up our Council for Public Communications, and that includes on Zoom, and it's just unfortunate that anybody has that kind of energy, but the fact is the city goes, in the City Council, we do not condone any type of hate speech. So I will leave it at that, and we will move on to City Commission reports. Mr. Gregorich, would you like to give a report? All right, seeing nobody else, we will go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. And is there any changes to the consent agenda?
I have a recusal on number 5 due to a financial interest.
Great.
In the area.
All right. All right, with seeing no changes, we will go ahead and open the consent agenda for public comment. Is there anybody in the room that would like to give public comment on any item listed on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll open it up to Zoom.
We'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on any topic on today's consent agenda. We do have one comment. It's from Ms. Boothby. You have 3 minutes with council. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry I forgot what number it was. I had it in front of me. It's about the RIG volunteer program. And I just wanted to say thank you for trying something new and, thinking outside the box to try to get some help with those cold cases. Today's meeting has started off with a lot of heavy stuff, and the cold cases is some more heavy stuff. So I'm glad the police department is reaching out to try to get this help that's offered. So I just wanted to say thank you, and yeah, my heart goes out to all of you that have experienced some loss recently. Okay, I guess that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you. There are no additional public comments, Mayor.
All right, so we'll bring it back to council for a motion.
I move that we pass the consent agenda with the recusal stated.
I'll second.
All right, we can vote.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll do a roll call vote.
all
Hold
right.
on 1 second. Okay. Councilmember Friedrich.
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace.
Aye.
Councilmember Cregan.
Aye.
Mayor Bass.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Right, so we are moving on. Do I need to call a different motion for the consent agenda, South Tahoe Joint Powers, or did that cover it? Just because.
Just to be on the safe side, yeah, I would do that as
Okay,
a separate motion.
great. So we'll move on to our second consent agenda, which is for the South Tahoe Joint Powers Parking Authority. And would any council member like to have discussion? All right, we will go ahead and open that up to public comment. Anybody in the room that would like to give public comment on this item? Seeing none, we will move to Zoom.
And we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on consent agenda item number 7. No public comments, Mayor.
Great, we'll bring it back to council for a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda for the South Tahoe Joint Powers Parking Financing Authority.
Second.
All right, we'll go for a roll call.
All right. Councilmember Friedrich.
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace.
Yes.
Councilmember Cregan.
Aye.
Mayor Bass.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Right, so on to regular new business, and we are moving on to item number 8, the joint exercise of a powers agreement with El Dorado County. Mr. Overroot.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor Bass, members of the council. I'm Hillary Roverud, Assistant City Manager. As you're aware, the city has partnered with the South Shore Transit Management Association, or SSTMA, to provide the Lake Link microtransit service through the city. That service has proven to be popular and has recently been expanded in geographic area, service area, as well as service hours. Given the success of the service, there is a desire to expand Lake Link and develop a reliable system to support transit options throughout the South Shore area and integrate the microtransit with our fixed route services as well. Meeting this goal will require long-term sustainable funding and an entity with the qualifications and capacity to manage transit operations, as well as state, federal, and local transit funding. The South Shore Transit Ad Hoc Committee, which is made up of members of our City Council, El Dorado County Supervisor Brooke Lane, a representative from SSTMA, and Heavenly Resort. They have been discussing options to achieve these goals and has made the recommendation to establish a joint powers authority with the city and the county, El Dorado County, as the initial members. Once established, the JPA would operate as an independent governmental entity separate from the JPA members themselves. It would have its own governing board, officers, bylaws, conflict of interest code, and treasury, details of which would be negotiated in a joint powers authority agreement. The resolution before you today authorizes and directs the city manager and city attorney to enter into negotiations with El Dorado County on a joint exercise of powers agreement to establish a Tahoe South Shore Transit Joint Powers Authority. We do anticipate, if this resolution is passed today, that the formation process would take approximately 1 year. And that is my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Great, thank you, Ms. Roverud.
If I may, Mayor Bass, really
Yes.
quick, sorry. Ms. Roverud, thank you very much. And I just want to highlight that the work that the committee's been doing has been inclusive with all the partners participating. And while this has been happening, the city, myself, and Ms. Roverud have been participating in TTD short-range transportation planning efforts. And I want it to be recognized that they need to be a part of this transition as we're working to create a JPA for more local transit control. They definitely are somebody we need to continue to have those conversations with to make sure that future regional connectivity aligns in a manner that provides good service for the Tahoe Basin as a whole. So thanks for that overview, but I just want to make it known that we have to continue to communicate with TTD, and as we move forward with this, we should be flexible in the design of service, be adaptable, and recognize that it's not going to just be something we turn a switch on and overnight everything's what we think it should be in utopia. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Irvin. All right, any questions from council? Ms. Cregan.
Thanks. Will we see this issue again? Today, we're just approving the entering into the negotiation of it, and then the actual formation of it comes back to council?
That's correct. The agreement itself would.
All right, Ms. Wallace, any questions? No? Mr. Friedrich online, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Great. All right. Well, that keeps it pretty simple. We will move on to public comment. First, we'll go in public comment in the room. Anybody that would like to give public comment? Mr. Mosier.
Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe. I'm opposed to this, and for several reasons. Some of the people involved here in this have failed us in the past miserably. And the process of it, and you're talking about being another year even before this would take effect and this joint powers would be formed. Like I said, this is really a free taxi and free limousine service. It's not microtransit. It's not really transit by definition. And I think it should move in and get somebody in charge down there. Put somebody in charge. We're putting like $700,000 or so now into it. And yes, of course, there's going to be great ridership. Like I said, if you got a free taxi and free limousine service, sure as hell, people are going to use it and take advantage of it. And it is taken advantage of. And you just need to have fixed route. You can have a lot more frequent service. People can get to where they want to go easier, faster. And you can actually, more people you can carry. So that should be the direction you should take. And I don't think this is the way to go. Like I said, there's been failures in the past. I mentioned previously a while back, city got a transit got a $2.5 million grant. It was going to be state of the art. It was going to be like NASA was proposed, and down at the transit center, and went nowhere because they couldn't even use the software, the equipment when it was installed. And so Mr. Teixeira here called in and ridiculed me and told me I didn't know what I was talking about. And he was right. I missed $1 million that was in public money going into private money that was going into that also. So it was $3.5 million, not $2.5 million. I got pissed away. So like I said, you put qualified people in charge that know what they're doing and get a system, a fixed route system, and concentrate on that. And we don't need to, city council will lose and the city will lose some of the control over it and the system and the transit system when it goes on rather than benefit from it. Thank you.
Mr. Mosier, anybody else in the room? Mr. Teixeira.
Morning, Mayor Bass, members of the council, present and online. Steve Teixeira on behalf of the South Shore Transportation Management Association, just to say that we have appreciated the opportunity to serve with the city and El Dorado County and Vail on your transit ad hoc subcommittee. Appreciate your work and your leadership. This is something that we support and will continue to work with you. We're happy to look at ways that we might reconfigure the structure of our organization so that we might have some level of seat on the JPA. That's not something that typically a nonprofit would be able to do, but we're happy to look into that. This is something obviously that we helped to get started with a lot of support from partners, including the city, Douglas County, El Dorado County, and private sector. And we want to continue to do whatever we can to make this a successful venture. So again, appreciate your leadership. We're in full support and appreciate the city manager's comments about the importance of continuing to involve the Tahoe Transportation District and integrating with their fixed route. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Mr. Teixeira. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we will move on to Zoom.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 8. No additional public comments, Mayor.
All right, bring it back to council for...
I move that we pass a resolution authorizing and directing the city manager and city attorney to enter negotiations with El Dorado County on a joint exercise of powers agreement to establish a Tahoe South Shore Transit Joint Powers Authority.
I'll second.
All right, great. And actually, I should have went to Mr. Friedrich. Did you have any comments or questions before we go to the vote?
Mayor Bass and Councilwoman Wallace does a good job on bringing this forward, and just wanted to highlight that this helps take a step in our direction of expanding and electrifying microtransit citywide, and I think this is a great development. So happy to support it.
Great, thank you. And yeah, I will echo those comments. This has been kind of a long time coming, 5 years of serving on the TTD board and really trying to make a solution that will work for the long term and get transit to a level that we all know it can be and can really make some great change. And I also want to say thanks Supervisor Lane for being here today and being such an integral part of also making this happen. So thank you.
All right, I'll go ahead and take the vote. Mayor Pro Tem Friedrich?
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace?
Aye.
Councilmember Cregan?
Aye.
Mayor Bass?
Aye.
That carries.
Right, so we will move on to item number 9. And
Good morning, Mayor Bass, members of the City Council, Olga Tikhamirova, Director of Finance. The item before you today is the approval excuse me, of professional services agreement with Central Square Technologies for finance system upgrade. The finance department and the city currently uses one solution from Central Square Technologies for its accounting, purchasing, personnel, and payroll functions to track and manage all of the city's financial data. And the last major upgrade was in 2013-14. And recently, approximately a few years ago, Central Square released a new version of their software, similar to one solution, and that software is called Finance Enterprise. We are planning to upgrade our current financial system, and the new software is available in 2 formats, on-premises format and the cloud or hosted format. There is a price difference. However, by moving into the cloud, the city will save on support, on the human support for the having, as opposed to have the system on premises. We will be saving on the hardware, and however, with having it on premise has its also positive moments. The city is fully responsible, but at the same time has more control over the security of the system and the data it contains when the system is on premises. The cost difference is approximately $30,000. The IT department and myself, we thoroughly examined the new format of the new software upgrade, and we concluded that moving into the cloud provides more benefits to the city, and we also requested the opinion of the IT consultant who reviewed the company, the Central Square, their security stance, and it will relieve some administrative burden from IT staff to move the system into the cloud, and also will provide some reliability in terms of there is no one server that can go down when we keep it on premises, and the city will always have access as long as there is any internet connection. I also wanted to mention that the system is widely used by many government agencies, and if the city decides that we want to bring the cloud version back on premises, we can also do it at any time in the future. The implementation will take approximately 9 months, and there are 2 versions of the resolution and professional services agreement. One recommends approving the hosted software upgrade with the additional budget appropriations of approximately $87,000, while the on-premises upgrade format will require approximately additional $41,000. And again, City Council is requested to provide directions to staff regarding the preferred format for this software. And I wanted to reiterate that staff recommends selecting the hosted format of the finance enterprise. And here in the audience, we have Sebastian Knapp, our IT supervisor. Would you like to make any additional comments?
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Sebastian Knapp, IT supervisor, City of South Lake Tahoe. The IT division is in support of moving towards a hosted solution, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, great. Thank you. Council, Ms. Wallace.
Mr. Knapp? Sorry. I think you answered it in your comment, but you agree with the IT consultant, that independent IT consultant, and their points that they've made?
Yeah, they were able to find no evidence that the company had ever suffered a major breach in this regard. And then they agreed with us that moving the platform into a hosted solution takes more of a target off of our backs. Because right now we are a target because all of that data lives here on site.
What's the recourse if for some reason there is a data breach? Do we have a contract with them that they'll make us whole in some form or fashion, or is that even part of it?
I'm sure that is written into the contract.
Okay.
We did confirm with them that they have their own insurance, but there would be a process that would involve contacting our cybersecurity insurance as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And okay, Mr. Friedrich, any questions?
No.
Right. The only question that I have actually for Mr. Knapp, most likely which I'm in support and agree with the cloud, but our redundancy on our connections here at the airport as well as everywhere else. I know we've had outages just being with AT&T, and now we're moving further into the cloud. Are we going to try to look at redundancy with Charter as well, or some type of redundancy where we never lose connection?
Yeah, we actually learned a lot of lessons during Caldor and Tamarack regarding that, because we had outages with both providers, but we have redundant connections via Spectrum and AT&T, and we are looking into adding Starlink as a tertiary connection when coverage is sufficient.
Great, thank you. All right, if there's no more questions, we will move on to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll move to Zoom.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 9. No public comments, Mayor.
All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for a motion.
I move that we pass a resolution authorizing and directing the city manager to execute professional services agreement with Central Square Technologies LLC for finance enterprise hosted software upgrade for a cost for the first year of $118,606 and subsequent annual costs of $105,906 and additional general fund budget appropriations of $86,606.
I'll second.
Second.
Oop.
All right, we got a motion and a second, and we'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Wallace.
Aye.
Councilmember Cregan.
Aye.
Mayor Bass.
Aye.
That motion carries.
All right, moving on to item number 10, City Council assignments to the South Lake Tahoe Recreation Facilities Joint Powers Authority, and this will be Ms. Blankenship.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is being brought forward at the request of Mr. Eisner at the January 23rd meeting. He has requested a city council appointment of an alternate to the South Lake Tahoe Recreation Facilities JPA. This is just so someone else can fill in if the first is not available. So just suggest someone and pass a motion.
All right, great. Any questions from council or?
I should know this, but who's on it? Who's the main person on it?
Councilmember Robbins.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mayor Bass,
Yes, Mr. Friedrich.
I previously served in this position, and I would be happy to serve as alternate.
Great. Well, I'm glad to know that. So I think we'll take public comment and then we can nominate you to do it. Public comment on this item. Anybody in the room that would like to give public comment? Seeing none, we'll move to online.
We'll go ahead and open up public comment on Zoom on agenda item number 10. No public comments, Mayor.
All right. So anybody that would like to make a nomination?
I move that Mayor Pro Tem Friedrich, can't speak today, be the alternate on the Joint Powers Authority for Tahoe Recreation Facilities.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. Councilmember Friedrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Wallace.
Aye.
Councilmember Cregan.
Aye.
Mayor Bass.
Aye.
That motion carries.
All right, moving right along. Item number 11, City Council designees to a Mecca Sister City trip. Wow.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Bass. So just by way of background for those that may not know, the City of South Lake Tahoe and City of Emeka became sister cities back in 2019. In 2020, the city sent a delegation down to Emeka, and then in 2021, I believe, Emeka sent a delegation up here. There's been a lot of trading of knowledge and touring of various cities. And those that have been involved in the foundation, notably Supervisor Lane, who's in the audience, along with city council members of the past from South Lake Tahoe and some staff members, have thought it would be good to continue to foster this relationship with Emeka. As the staff reports suggesting, we're asking for 2 delegates from the city council to be appointed to participate at no cost to the city, is that's how it's written. The thing to note, based on my experience working in other cities, as well as I've talked about it with the city attorney and her experience, is a lot of times when cities have sister city arrangements, there is a nonprofit that's separate from the local government that works to support and foster fundraising efforts made up of members of the community and perhaps a designee from council or city government. So Miss Lane did start this back on her time when she was on city council. We have the paperwork. It needs to be filed. So that's a path forward that I would propose. I'll probably work on with those that are interested to formalize that nonprofit, create a founding board, and establish an avenue where there can be independent fundraising to support our cultural and educational experiences with the sister city. And it could also help to support the cost of welcoming Emeka delegates to South Lake Tahoe, as well as potentially deferring some of the cost for those who want to travel from here to Emeka down the road. I think it's wide open what that nonprofit would look like, but that's a path forward. I think that adds more legitimacy to our relationship. But right now, we're just looking for a motion delegating 2 members. Thank you, Mayor Bass.
Great, thank you, Mr. Irving. All right, any questions from council? All right, Mr. Friedrich, any questions?
No questions.
All right, great. We will go to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Mr. Mosier.
Yes, Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe. Yeah, just would request a little bit of clarity. Mr. Irvin just mentioned of forming a nonprofit, because it says at no cost to the city, but you're leaving the end of the month here, February 28th to March 4th. So if the nonprofit isn't formed, just who is paying for it? Just curious. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mosier. Any other public comment? Seeing none. All right, we'll move on to the Zoom platform.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who would like to provide public comment on agenda item 11. No additional public comments, Mayor.
All right, great. Bringing it back to council. Would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, as written in the staff report, it would be no cost to the city, and those members that are appointed delegates would pay for themselves.
Great, thanks for the clarification. Bringing it back to council. Ms. Cregan?
I'm really supportive of the sister city relationship, and all of my interactions with the delegates from Mecca when they've come, and when we did the plaque and the 4th of July parades have been really fun, but I can't go.
Ditto. I'll be returning just in time for city council on February 27th from a long trip and can't leave that quickly immediately. So I'm not interested this time, but I am super supportive, especially of Mr. Mora, who I believe is being inducted as their El Presidente. And he's also sort of a local here in town, not sort of, he is a local here in town. And so whoever chooses to go, you have my love and my support, but I can't go.
All right. Well, good. Well, I definitely would like to go. Last time they were here, we did host them, and just I think the relationship is so important. We have so many different residents that are from that region that live here in Southlake, and I think it's really, there's been a lot of great things to come from this, and so many more good things to come. So, yeah, I'm very interested to go. I know Mr. Friedrich and all his work on the multicultural committee, and kind of, you know, I know Mr. Friedrich would absolutely like to go as well. So, actually, Mr. Friedrich, would you like to make any comments?
Yes, Mayor Bass, I would like to go, ready and willing to pay for all the expenses myself. I do appreciate what Mr. Irvin said about future opportunities for those who might want to visit and are not prepared to fund it themselves. I think we should find, it would be great to find a way to have diverse participation in these trips. But yeah, just to underscore that in this case, that I and the other would be paying 100% of this ourselves, and I'm choosing to do it because it is such an important relationship, or I would like to choose to do it if I'm selected here. And the Multicultural Alliance Subcommittee that you mentioned, Mayor Bass, has intersected with many from Mecca, including Victor Mora. And I would just add that my daughter Rosie, who just finished up high school and is now overseas, was delivered 60 letters that she gathered at the Multicultural Festival. And also in Spanish class at the high school, which were sent down to Mecca with Mr. Mora a couple of weeks ago. And so hopefully they will be returning with responses to our students. And to me, that's one of the more heartwarming elements of the exchange, is the student-to-student letter writing that happened previously and is now being started again. So I look forward to being part of it if selected by my colleagues.
Well, thank you, Mr. Friedrich. So with that, we are looking for a motion.
I've got one. I'd like to make a motion designating Mayor Bass and Mayor Pro Tem Friedrich as our two members of City Council to attend an Emeka Sister City trip, February 28th to March 4th, 2024, at no cost to the city.
Second.
All right, we'll take a roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Wallace.
Aye.
Councilmember Cregan. Aye. Mayor Bass. Aye. That motion carries.
All right, so moving on, we are not going to have item 12. It'll be at the next meeting. And so we are to our agenda planning calendar. Item 13, Mr. Irvin.
Yes, Mayor Bass and members of City Council. The only thing I'd like to highlight is we'll be having a presentation at our next meeting on February 27th, the evening meeting starting at 5:30 from Chad Hayes on the basin entry fee. And we are preparing all materials to be able to have a discussion with the entire City Council on TOT Public Opinion Survey results. Those are the two I'd like to highlight. And the cannabis revenue grant item will be coming back that meeting.
Great. All right, thank you. Any council members that have any questions on the APC? All right, seeing none. Mr. Friedrich, any questions here on agenda planning?
Nope.
All right, moving on to updates and announcements. We'll start with Ms. Straub.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have none at this time.
Great. Mr. Irvin?
I do have a couple, Mr. Mayor. Just so everyone's aware, on February 1st, we held a EOC training for city employees. The City Fire Department and El Dorado County Sheriff's Office led a citywide exercise for our EOC. All departments were involved. Chief Linenthal from El Dorado Hills led the event. He was a really great trainer and facilitator. I know Mayor Bass came, and we appreciate you coming to be a part of that. This is important to us. It's been a while since we did citywide training. We had at least 2 people deep in each position of the EOC operation. So it was a success. I appreciate Chief Drennan's leadership on organizing it and pulling in some great training expertise. I also want to highlight the winter operations open house that we had this last week. That was a big success at the rec center. Kids were able to come drink hot cocoa, see our new snowplow equipment, get a picture with Olaf and Elsa, and kudos to our city manager's office for pulling that off, Cherie Juarez and Hillary Roverud. I appreciate the work there. And then Monday, February 19th, city offices will be closed for President's Day. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Irvin. Mrs. Blankenship?
Nothing to report.
All right, so we are moving on to council member reports. I will start with Mr. Friedrich.
All right. Well, I would want to say, I would just want to thank Mr. Kurtzweiler at the beginning of the meeting for the moment of silence on behalf of the 4 who lost their lives on Sunday in our community. I know this has hit hard in many quarters, starting, I'm sure, with the parents and family members. So appreciated that, and we certainly share in that grief. I also wanted to extend my condolence to our colleague, Councilmember Robbins, in the passing of his father. And I guess just to me, in these moments we see, the heart of our community coming forward and compassion. And I just want to say that stands in direct contradiction to the anti-Semitic, Holocaust-denying comment at the beginning of the meeting that I just wanted to add my voice of just soundly rejecting of having no place in our community. Our Jewish friends in South Lake Tahoe are the best of us and have been dealing with a lot of hate, for all time really, but especially in the last half a year. And I was glad for the public commenters rejecting that. I just want to add my voice and in support of anything we can do to underscore the commitment we expressed in our previous resolution to stand against hate and ignorance and spite, like we heard earlier. And I hope we never hear it again. And I stand prepared to do whatever we can to make sure that that's the case. So with that, and I also wanted to say thank Ms. Ballard for the option for some empathy with those who have disabilities, people with disabilities, and to take on disability for the day. And I'd be happy to volunteer for that project as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Friedrich. Mrs. Cregan.
I don't have anything to report, but I would like to echo all of Mr. Friedrich's comments regarding, I really appreciated the moment of silence this morning. That was a nice, quiet reminder of why we're actually here. And I do want to remind us all that we have taken many stands. We have, at the end of last year, we passed 2 resolutions about being united against hate. I think that our city council is very strong in that regard. To reiterate our stance against any comments. And I would also like to note that it's important, as Mr. Friedrich noted, that we act that way in our daily lives also, not when we're sitting in this room in our official capacities. And I like to think that all of us do that. So thanks for being here and thanks for being part of our community doing that.
Great, thank you, Ms. Cregan. Mrs. Wallace.
I don't have any commission reports either, but I would just like to make 2 comments. One is my heart really goes out to the family of the 4 young people that died yesterday. No one is unaware you aren't unaware of what I went through 2 years ago. And so I really feel for them. And I'm also thankful that Mr. Kurzweiler, who also has experienced the loss of 2 children, had us give that moment of silence. I think it was incredibly important for us to acknowledge the lives that were lost and the lives that are still fighting, the one person who's still fighting for health in the hospital today. Also, we had another loss in the community. Ron Zarens, who was the owner of the property at Ski Run and Pioneer Trail, passed away. He was a former member of the Planning Commission and had spent many years working in the community to better the community. And I would just like to acknowledge his passing as well. And having lost my father, I would really like to send my condolences to Councilmember Robbins.
Great, thank you, Ms. Wallace. Yeah, I don't have much to report. I did have a TRPA meeting that was actually very interesting about kind of the threshold that was put in place. I would tell anybody that is interested to definitely look into it. Essentially, we are going to hold the line on that and try to find a middle ground, which I think is a good thing for TRPA, from my perspective, to kind of do what we say we're going to do. So I would recommend anybody that hasn't looked at that to check it out. I also echo, of course, all of the sentiment of today. You know, we went through a very tragic event yesterday, and I think we all need to come together and also learn from what we're dealing with in our community. This isn't just here in South Lake Tahoe. This is an issue that is really nationwide and global, but we really need to come together and learn how to educate our children and our youth and our adults around the tragic things that can happen when we don't pay attention to what is going on. But it's a terribly sad day for South Lake Tahoe. And to hear what we heard this morning, you know, there is no place for that in our community. It doesn't represent our community. And, you know, we all need to do everything as we have passed resolutions in the past, but what more we can do, I stand committed to making sure that we do that. And so with that, we are adjourned.